Everything that we experience is a relationship. It's an intelligent field that we can use as a resource on our path back to the home of our deepest self. Everything is relationship. So whether that's money or a person or our health, external things, food, our bodies, all of these things are relationship. And the relationship itself between you and whatever it is a field of intelligence. Now, this is a really important thing to remember, because oftentimes when we're feeling something that is challenging us, what we want to do instinctively is to move away from it, to just push it out. We don't want to be in relationship with it because it's uncomfortable. But in order to clarify the relationship, and a human relationship as well, turning away from it and ignoring it and suppressing it and distracting ourselves from it really is just a very, very short-term solution, and really doesn't ultimately give us not only the peace that we're looking for, but doesn't actually honor that relationship in the sense that it's here to help us to grow. And so how we honor our relationships, that which life has brought us, is we inquire deeply into them. And we allow them to open us up. We allow that inquiry to dissolve any conditioned beliefs that we have. And that kind of leads me to the points I want to make regarding soul-guided living and emotions. So for many of us, issues around money and our relationship with money might bring forth anxiety, confusion, frustration, and various other emotions. And so I want to speak about emotions that we feel and how they too are portals into a deeper understanding around any relationship and a deeper harmony in those relationships. So the first thing something to remember, is that as little ones, we felt a lot of emotions. Little children are very fluid emotionally, very fluid. And they don't have many or any suppression mechanisms in place when they're very, very young. But depending on how their emotions are received by their parents, their teachers, the people around them, the world around them, they can begin to be self-conscious about their emotions. They can begin to find ways to suppress, to override, to sometimes just freeze emotions as a way really to survive in the context of what is being welcomed in their world, right? Children are quite helpless in many ways, and they do depend on the adults around them. And so sometimes they will shift themselves and even kind of hide certain parts of their emotional being. And this is to a greater or lesser extent, depending on how intense our childhood situation was. And we just learn to suppress them. Sometimes they get frozen. Sometimes we kind of work our way around them. So we become the comic, we become the caretaker. But the point here is that there are many emotions that we felt as little ones that were not completely integrated, meaning they weren't allowed to really complete themselves. And the word emotion reminds us that it's something that really needs to be in motion. But most of us have, and perhaps all of us, have emotions that are sort of caught in circular patterns in our body, or even just frozen in time. And once we embark on a journey to soul, to spirit, to our highest expression, these emotions are going to have to come out at some point, because they can't coexist with that highest expression. And in fact, what I find is that oftentimes when people do really consciously begin to go inwards in whatever practices connect them to their deepest self, a lot of those emotions, actually even more emotions, come floating to the surface, because the system is thawing out in the light of the soul, in the light of spirit. And so later on in life, at this stage of our lives, sometimes and oftentimes we feel emotions like anxiety. And this may actually be a good sign that the system is thawing out an old anxiety that has been kind of stuck in there for a long time. And that's affecting our perspective and our capacity to feel free and open and vulnerable. And so, the movement of emotions is actually a very good thing. But because we're so programmed to kind of categorize them as good and bad, there's a tendency to want to shove them back down. Or what we do, say, for example, with anxiety, is we will kind of we'll go to our minds to try to understand it. And so oftentimes when anxiety comes to the surface, for example, we'll look for something in our life to blame it on. Oh, it must be my finances. It must be that this relationship doesn't feel as close as it usually does. It must be that particular thing that happened this week. So we tend to kind of, I think, maybe look at the cause and effect in a kind of reversed order. I'm feeling anxious because of my financial situation, because of my money worries, instead of anxiety is here and I am blaming something external for it. But anxiety is here, and this is a perspective that you can consider. I'm not asking you to, to believe it, but anxiety is here because my system is simply decompressing, it's integrating, it's releasing, it's becoming more conscious, it's becoming more sensitive. And we don't have to blame it on anything, because the truth is, the anxiety isn't here because of the money. The anxiety isn't here because of this relationship. The anxiety is here because a long time ago, we didn't feel it. So that's a really important thing to remember and to catch ourselves when we're blaming our emotions on external things. What would it be to just open to this energy and maybe even see that it's a good thing, that it's up, that it's coming to the surface, find space for it, come into relationship with it, be friendly with it, do what I can to help it to feel more comfortable. All of those things can be really helpful. And as that happens, as the anxiety begins to have more space, we naturally have access to wiser, more true perspectives, really, on money and other things.